So we're going to start with we're going to go back to Brooklyn, actually, from Germany. And I'm starting to talk about lithography, which we'll get to if we know it. Lithography was huge back in the 19th century. Everybody had pictures on the wall, prints that they had, but there was no way you could print color. So you had to hand color it. So this is about a cousin of mine, which my dad found in the phone book. Pop came to this country. His father told him, anybody with your last name is related. And so far, that's absolutely true. He found a cousin in Brooklyn, and I found a cousin in Germany who was my second cousin with all that stuff with the last name. So this is Karl Schurz. I've talked about him before. By the way, now he's bad news because he abused the Indians. Well, he didn't. But my country, right or wrong, in one sense, I say too, my country, and my country is the great American Republic. My country, right or wrong, if right, to be kept right, and if wrong, to be set right. That was quoted a lot, so hit that, Jerry. This is Karl Schurz. Now, my relative came with him, in fact, knew him. I will tell you why in a minute. Let's go. I hate that green fist.
I know, I'm trying to get rid of that.
All right, his name is, wait for Jerry.
See if I can click and drag it, but it's not letting me drag it.
His name was Karl Theobold Lubrecht. When he got to this country, he changed his name from Karl to Charles. And he had his bag all packed, and he was an artist. And this is his son, wrote a book about him. His son was a medical illustrator and a doctor and a character, and he was a Brooklyn 48er. So when he came to this country, he goes to the Civil War, and volunteers, they tell him, oh, no, you have tuberculosis. He said, really? I didn't know that. So he started in with his, and we'll give you the whole background. But that's what New York looked like in 1860, I think, when he came. There was no Brooklyn Bridge. Okay, go ahead. Hit it.
Yeah, I'm trying. There we go.
All right.
Sorry, I can't get rid of that.
Pause philosophy, and I can't read that.
Was that the things a man...
That's it. Does not do is often as important as the thing he does. He thought the troubles of the world were caused by people who tried to do too much. It was a bad habit which should be curbed, for it generally led to interference with other people's business and happiness. And he wrote that, Charles A. wrote that about Paul. Paul moved into Brooklyn, and we'll see in a minute where he comes from. This is Charles Lubrecht's map of Iowa. And if you go to that map, which is in an atlas, you can actually see one of the smallest towns on the map. He's got every town. And he was a map colorer. They used to color the maps. Rumor has it that he was with the map company, Hammond Atlas or whoever. Go ahead. Now, this is you see the coat of arms that I supposedly have? We're not sure. Originally the family was originally from Strasbourg, West Prussia, and it was von Lubrecht, and they were Tuchmachermeisters, which are tablecloth makers, so to speak. And they were dragoons in the Napoleonic Wars. And then they left. They went in 5 different directions: Pennsylvania, Hazleton, St. Petersburg, Russia, and a town called Blaubeuren. And hit it. Go ahead. Oh, wait, go back. Can you go back? Yeah. We're not sure that Charles Lubrecht created the coat of arms or there really was one. Because everybody had one. As my dad said, we were all fun, and you see down there Lubrecht. My dad used to say it's a whopping, it's a coat of arms. Pop used to say everybody had a coat of arms. Guy who swept out the stables, all of that. Go ahead. So he is from, my family is from Reutlingen. This is my grandmother's family. But my grandfather met his wife in Reutlingen. And that family was there for 750 years. They were tanners. And Stuttgart is where my dad grew up. But look at all the Ingens. Tübingen, Böblingen, Nürtingen. Those are all Swedish towns, but our family moved to Blaubeuren, which, go ahead. And this is the Swans in Blaubeuren. They were all artists, all of these people. And I found this book about Pa from cousins that lived in Litchfield and where's upstate New York there. So a lot of money. Go ahead. This is Blaubeuren. And it's called Blaubeuren because it's blue. Blau is blue in Württemberg. And this is where they opened a bookstore and a publishing company. Well, Germany was 305 countries back then. And my relative decided they could print a newspaper that really wasn't nice to the government. So they wanted a parliament in 1848, and the large rats. Anyway, the students revolted, and in about 1848, they wanted to have a parliament, and the Kaiser said no. And then they were students used to wear the German colors. That's where that color comes from, their flag today. And it was a forbidden hat. Well, my relative decided they're going to print a newspaper. They got in trouble. So go ahead. This is Blaubeuren's church as it is today. It's the state church from Blaubeuren. Now, these guys were related to the families somehow. Okay, we'll try to concentrate. This guy, Joseph von Schelling, was a philosopher, and they were an idealist philosopher. I was inspired by Kant, and the whole idea was that, and a colleague of Hegel's, by the way, and the whole idea was idealism was coming, and we wanted a government and so forth. Carl Schurz barely escaped being shot because of that. So Christoph Gottfried Bardelie is a German philosopher, cousin of Friedrich Wilhelm Joseph Schelling, the guy up there. He was critical of Kant idealism and proposed his own system of philosophy known as logical or rational realism. Right. But August Adolf Lubrecht, publisher and bookseller, was married to Matilda Hasses, a relative of Schelling's. What does that mean? Well, in 1849, August Lubrecht, who's my father's great-grandfather, and Matilda, Karl, Emma, and Amalie, with Julius Hasses, escaped across Lake Constance. And I heard this from my Auntie Florence, who said that they had to run because there was something like 9,000 Prussian troops chasing them down. So they ran across Lake Constance up there into Switzerland. Well, Switzerland was not a friendly place. Even to this day, you have to live there 25 years before you can be a citizen and pay a tax every single year of $400 or so. So they moved to Zurich. And when young Karl became 20, he decides to go to the U.S. and meet his cousin, Julius Hasses, who in the meantime had gone to the U.S. That was his mother's brother, I think, and opened a publishing business. And he married a very famous girl, so to speak. And all right, Hasses was the first to leave Switzerland for New York. By the way, hundreds of Germans came in, one after another. Some settled over here in Long Valley or German Valley, and that's kind of what it looked like. Okay. This was Brooklyn in 1850. The only way you could get from Brooklyn to Manhattan was by ferry. There's no Brooklyn Bridge. And a friend of mine speaks on Roebling a lot. The problem was Roebling got very sick, and Mrs. Roebling took over, and people said the bridge was dangerous. So they marched 11 elephants across it. And my relative took his family across the bridge, came back, and never would walk on it again. He took the ferry, which went into what's now Ground Zero. Go ahead. This was 1851, Lower Manhattan, and commuted daily from ferry to Brooklyn. This is like, if you saw the movie Gangs of New York, that's that area. It's also the area of publishing newspapers, all that good stuff. You can see the Tribune up there. See it up there where it says Tribune? Well, the Tribune was run by Horace Greeley, go West young man. And he didn't really like the Germans at all. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And the problem with New York was, you see the streets? They were never cleaned until 1899. When it was, and look at all the horses and wooden sidewalks and no sanitation. But then again, what are you going to do? So you can see, well, this is the Gilded Age. And go ahead. This is, Haas's published this little, I don't know what it was. It was, he framed it on the wall of New York City. And you can see that it was pretty rural. And most of the buildings had been there since the American Revolution. Go ahead. This is Pa. Everybody in the neighborhood called him Pa. And he was a father. And then his son writes the good old days. And there's the signature, Charles T. Lubrecht, 966. I don't know what street that is. Bedford, yeah. Bedford Ave was all German. All the Germans went to Bedford Ave. And I think I was actually in that house as a kid. Go ahead. This is, he belonged to the Masons. I cannot figure that out. He was a Mason. There's the certificate. George Washington was a Mason. Lincoln was gone. We don't know why. I think it's a different Mason than we know today. But this is him. 20-year-old Charles Lubrecht joined Haas's in 1865 by Montreal. He came into the country through Montreal because he had a job as a map colorer. That's him. He always had, he looks very much like my father. Don't you think? No, if you wait, it gets better. This was New York as Pa found it. And that over there, I think, is Castle Island. Before immigrants came into Ellis Island, they came into Castle Island. And go ahead. This is Sir Hans Sloane, MD. Julius Haas married Fanny L. Yeager and eventually lived with her father. He was a very, very famous scientist and lived in Brooklyn and next to the Whitmans, as in Walt Whitman. And also he was a builder. So go ahead. Now, Brooklyn Daily Eagle had their ads, J.F. Haas, Maps and Charles Lubrecht and Company, Haas and Lubrecht, map and print coloring. Well, what happened to Haas is he dies in 1864. We have no idea whether he was in the Civil War or what. Can't find him, but there was a will, and he had to get his brother-in-law to promise to take care of the family and also to take over the business and leave the name Haas and Lubrecht. Okay. I love it. Julius Haas died in 1864. We're not too sure how. It might have been disease. He left children and an aged father-in-law in Charles's care. Go ahead. Well, Lincoln comes along and gets assassinated, as you might guess. Well, 1 week later, Charles Lubrecht puts out a book by this woman. It's the only German life of Lincoln, translated from Lincoln, His Life in Public Service. Now, she's interesting. Her name is Phoebe Hannaford. She's an openly gay female minister in 1865. So he translated the book and printed it out. So I had about 3 copies of that. She was quite a woman's suffrage and she was a women's rights activist, author. But that's 1865. We don't even know that it's starting back there. Go ahead. This is the book, Abraham Lincoln in German. And it says his charge, really. And if you look all the way down, you'll see Haas and Lubrecht at the end there. I don't know this. He then did all these lithographs. This is our fallen heroes, all the North, and you can see them all around Lincoln. Go ahead. Go back. One more? All right. Go back. Good.
That was weird.
Now that's circa 7, 8. Go one more. That would be the fallen brave. They're all Confederates. And these 2 lithographs are in a book on the North and the South. And Stonewall, I guess he's not so popular today. Anyway, go on. This is Grant Ulysses S. Probably one of the bigger crooks in our history. He was a ne'er-do-well with money, and Karl Schurz and he and the Germans did not get along with the man because he was just didn't know what to do with money. Okay. This is, oh my goodness, that's Andrew Johnson, another one hated by particularly the Germans because Johnson, you know where Johnson was on Lincoln's inauguration? He was drunk. Lincoln's assassination, he was drunk. And he and the German American community did not get along at all. Because
sorry. Go back.
What's that?
Do you want me to go back?
That's right. Okay. Now Charles married Mary Elizabeth Phillips, the girl next door, who was next door at this point to Whitman. Look down at Walt Whitman there and see the beard thing going. Her father moved to Bedford and Brooklyn to continue his career as a builder. His colleague was Walt Whitman's father, a carpenter who lived in the same neighborhood. And Whitman wants a carpenter. The wrong one. And the other guys on the ferry were President Cleveland. Boy, was he a piece of work. Sam Clemens or Mark Twain and Henry Ward Beecher. Henry Ward Beecher was an abolitionist. Twain went by the name Sam Clemens. And President Cleveland, he never wanted to leave the country, didn't want to travel. But they all ate at the same dinner table. Go ahead. This is Whitman. He wrote this poem, Crossing Brooklyn Ferry. I loved well those cities. I loved well the stately and rapid river. The men and women I saw were all dear to me. Others the same. Others who look back on me because I look forward to them. The time will come, though. I stop here today and tonight. He was, the rumor is that he was openly gay, a boyfriend. Oh boy. They all were in the ferry together. Now, this is a house somewhere in Long Island. It's labeled Argan 1901. All I know is Charles Lubrecht's wife, 3 children, 2 sisters, and a young lady in a family way. Not too sure what that was all about. This is another view, but if you go along one more, I think there was a stereo optic inside. Not too sure. This is somewhere in the Hamptons or wherever. I can't find it, wherever it is. As you can see, there's some money. There was no air conditioning in Brooklyn in those days, obviously. So all the people in New York came around the country with that money. And at specific places they go. The Vanderbilts went up to Newport. Jewish population went out to Elberon, New Jersey. Some would go north of Philly into Pennsylvania, but they got out of the sea. It was hot. It was our gang of them. But
Try and sound
of course. We're going to start with the lithographs. This is the drunkard. I just bought a t-shirt on the front. They're still selling his stuff online. You can buy it for Frank t-shirt, coffee mugs, all that. This is the drunkard's progress. You see it there. I don't know why or how he did them. We're just there. Go ahead. This was the hero Antietam, which is McClellan. But McClellan was hardly one. He really didn't do too well. He's, by the way, from what's he from? Orange, New Jersey. But our Savior carrying the cross. I guess he was commissioned. All those colors are put in by hand, and then they're sold, put in a frame. This is the grand procession in honor of the Fenian exiles in New York City, February 9th, 1870. Why? Go ahead. This is the Holy Roman Catholic faith. And he wasn't Catholic at all. He's Lutheran. Go ahead. This is his map of the United States. It's a railroad map. It's probably one of the first railroad maps for cross country. And the thing about it is, I don't know why there's red states and yellow states. I haven't figured that out. But should you see one, they're 6 foot square. And if you want to buy it, it's about $25. Museums. And it is so specific, you can find every small town in the world. Go ahead. This is King William III at the Battle of the Boyne. Ray, remember the Boyne? Yes, King Billy on the board. Go ahead. This is an angel, black and white, by the way, cheaper. Go ahead. This is his pocket map of Pennsylvania. Why that? Well, he sent them over to Germany, and he used that as advertisement. I found that map, President's house in Germany. They would send them to get them over here. So, let's see, go ahead. This is the Brooklyn Bridge. Way overhead. I really would like to get somebody even to speak on it. You all know the story of the Brooklyn Bridge? The fact that Robley got so sick. This is Robley, wake it up. Then there was a big issue with Barnum and the circus. Now, there's 3 of these bridges. There's one here, one in Cincinnati. And there's a small bridge up in Watson, Pennsylvania.
I've been to the one in Cincinnati also.
Well, Robley made steel cable. That's where they started. But then he got very sick. One of his cousins died on the Titanic. And also, because you couldn't put supports under the one side, people were, carrying on about how dangerous it was. And then P.T. Barnum marched the 11 elephants. Charles T. Lubrecht marched the fan. The whole city came across the bridge and then refused to take it anymore. So go ahead. This is the president, the People's Rights, which is interesting too, which is a poster for the Democratic Party. He didn't care which party. Go ahead. That's interesting too. The steamer Victoria was the first luxury ship with sails and steam engine. And the idea was back about then to do a cruise. One of the first cruises was this kind of ship. Normally you would just get across the water, but this ship was they did it up like a hotel and all that stuff. And this is what they called double engine. This is the first luxury liner. Okay. I have no idea who she is. The Queen of Love. I don't know. No, there's another Queen of Love.
The Rose of...
And these go on your wall, dining room.
Beauty.
Go ahead. This is our national, what does it say?
Our Nation's Choice. This is, I guess, the yellow ticket.
He did all the political posters.
This is Garfield and Arthur.
Oh, Garfield. Who's the other one?
Arthur.
Chester A.
Love New York.
There's 2 beauties. Chester A. Arthur was the governor of the Philippines.
Oh, that I didn't know. I know he was was he a tax collector of New York or something?
Well, in the Philippines in the 1890s, they murdered 4,000 women and children. America did it. They just excused it all and moved them out someplace else. Garfield was a dud. He wouldn't travel. He didn't want to do anything. He was kind of a candidate. Well, let's put him in office. We got nobody else. Go ahead.
They killed him.
This is
Golden Hours.
Golden Hours with your child. Is that lovely? Go ahead. This is Charles Lubrecht's Atlas of America. If you see one, the starting price is $1,000. I have one. But what they're doing is they're cutting the pages out and selling them on eBay. This is the centennial map of Pennsylvania. Look at 1879, because in 1876 they had a huge celebration for the anniversary of the country. And if you go on this map, you will find Denville. Go ahead. All right, he tried and failed to sell Circassian water. This was his idea. A large bottle of floral essence for the handkerchief, toilet, and bath. Refreshing, relieves fatigue, nervousness, and headaches. Charles Lubrecht, proprietor, 58 Vesey Street. Ask your druggist or fancy goods dealer. What that whole area, by the way, is where Matthew Brady was, Courier and Ives, and all these people down there, which some are still there. Go ahead. All right, this is a party, and I will show you. This is Pa is sitting on the far right. You see him? My Auntie Flo is right there with the dark circle. This is his son Charles, who's a real character, more on them later. And I don't quite know who all the other people were. This was the Gettings wedding, who they were in touch with for years. But this is about 1890 some. Charles Lubrecht, lying right there, was a surgeon and a medical illustrator. And we'll talk about his army career later. Go ahead. This is Charles with the beard. He could never figure out why he always had a beard. Go ahead. This building is still standing. This is where he lived, and it's in Brooklyn near one of the parks there. Go ahead. This is weird. This feminism thing is on the way. Fanny Wright and Phoebe Hannaford were openly gay women. So my Auntie Florence kept it hidden. I found her love letters. I loved her. Oh, God. Funny woman, never forgot my birthday. Hysterically. I told the story to someone earlier. When she was dying, my dad found her in a phone book. And he goes there and she brings her flowers on the subway. He did that every place he went, looked in the phone book, right, Lubrecht? So she said, oh my God, my brother Will. He looks just like her. You can never figure that out, but I never missed a birthday. Oranges and grapefruits from Florida with Auntie Marion. Auntie Marion. And we went there for dinner one time when I was a kid. And there were actually it was four couples. It was 8 old ladies. Aunt Emma was 90. All the partners. Funny, you just sat there and laughed because they were watching Perry Mason. And we shredded it. They were made fun of it. Go ahead. This is Pa toward the end of his life. But he has a family legacy. He was a publisher. And the neighborhood, by the way, loved him. Everybody in the neighborhood knew Pa, and they called him Pa. Go ahead. This is my dad, who you can see resembles him considerably. That was his cousin. He died in 1997, and he published early American botanical works. He was a specialist with other miscellaneous botanical rarities. Most people don't know that the botanists in the early part of this country were the map makers and the people who brought information back. That's Pop, always wearing his double shirt. You know this. That's me. Written a couple. Keep going. This is, oh man. Charity, this is written by Charles T. Charity is one of the most noble virtues, like the violet that lays hidden under the grass and the moss, and from there sends forth the fragrant smell so true. Charity silently does the good work, the satisfaction of God and our own heart being the great recompense of charitable deeds. He wrote that in 1871. He wrote poems in German and in English. I think that's the last one, but I'm not sure. In it. Oh, to be a German now means more than it means before he belonged to one united nation. He who calls himself a German now must never forget his honorable obligations to his name. He must honor Germany and himself. The German American can accomplish great things for the development of the great composite nation of the New World. If in his works and deeds he combines and welds the best that is in the German character with that, the best in the American. And this is Carl Schurz said this. And Charles Lubrecht knew him quite well. Go ahead. That's the end. And that's kind of a, I'm so sorry for this mess, as a matter of fact. No, I don't know if you have any questions, but I have a good story. And his son, Charles A., gets drafted. And he doesn't want to go to World War I because he's going to lose money. So, but he ends up in the army out in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, where the Indian school was. And he didn't think much of the army at all. They told him to build a recreation center. He built it on the golf course. And when the West Point guy comes in and says, You know, you have to salute. He's shaking his hand. He said, why? I don't want to be here anyway. And then he went back into his practice shortly after that. But he wrote that account. And he was a character, I'll tell you. But he had a very successful practice in Brooklyn. Auntie Florence never worked. She and her partner had a summer home in East Orange, of all places. So there you go, different time, different place. And what I always say to people is until 1899, New York City did not exist. Yeah, it was
Separate.
if you think about New York City, it'd be an interesting presentation. But New York City it became a city in 1898, 1899 because the place was so full of vice, sin, corruption, all of that. And Teddy Roosevelt tried to straighten that out, but that's another story. Okay. So the streets weren't clean until 1890. And New York they called it the city of vice because they had homeless soldiers, prostitution. Homeless, you could get a board for 50 cents to sleep on. And the health was awful. Typhoid Mary got loose. And I was connected. I think we'll do one on that too, because I knew the doctor, the health commissioner.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Old New York was smaller. And we had a friend who lived with us off and on New York, old lady. She told all the old New York stories. I wished I had a tape recorder.
Yeah.
She knew the Bronx, the Barnets, the Vanderbilts.
Oh.
She was the first woman to make executive.
Oh.
So the history of New York is just amazing. But you can imagine prostitution, crime, and then dumb Teddy Roosevelt goes out and says, we'll have no more beer on Sundays in a German and Irish neighborhood. Didn't go well. He had the largest demonstration of all time. 30,000 people showed up. So there you go. Any questions? Well, some people aren't happy.